Okay, I'm putting the transmission in. I just want to show you a couple of tricks that I think work. The torque converter, have these bolts down here at the bottom so you can line them up easier. So there's like one right here and one right here. I got them in. See, there's one there. There's one there. But those two are in, it's in, and then I started this bolt and the other bolt, so now it's pretty much in. I just have to tighten it up. Then you got the transmission cross member. I'm just putting this on first. You'll know what I'm talking about if you do this. And these two bolts are going to go into the transmission. I slipped the parking cable through this hole right here. And there's two bolts here. Two bolts will be there. And there's the speedometer cable. I mean the emergency brake cable. That clip goes right there. Now you can get the transmission jack out. And the speedometer cable. You go right in there. That bolt holds it. By the way, these bolts here, you can get a socket up through here. Okay, put these on the end of your muffler pipes if you have stock. Gonna have to play with that. Yeah, I had a setback. I had to cut all the pipes loose. Whoever welded this thing together before had it like twisted, and I couldn't pull them into the flanges. Oh, look at that. Look up inside there. You see that? Right there. The grind, this edge of this block here, this is the block right there. And then the bit popped off and went right inside. I didn't even know that. And if you watch my last video, I had to take this off too. Just the way they had it configured, I just could not get it in there. It was more work trying to hook that muffler up to the exhaust manifold than it was putting the transmission in. So I just cut everything out. It just wasn't welded up right. So I cut it there. Again, I'm not ready to put any headers or anything. I don't even know if I'm ever gonna. But at least I can tie in right here. And I got this piece back in. So that has to go in after the muffler. Unless you're really talented. Okay, I got the drive shaft. This brace right here. It came off one of my other cars. Stock exhaust pipe. It's about 1 7/8. Hard to believe, isn't it? Yeah, this old regulator that mounts on the radiator on the driver's side, I think I'm going to use it for a junction box. That's where the wires are. Just have to cut all this stuff loose. Take all these inside guts out. Okay. But what I like about this is, at least for now, the wires can stay exactly where they are. They just have to be connected a little bit different. Which I'll go over in a future video because I'm not ready. I just was thinking about a junction box and I decided that's the perfect box because it's right where it's supposed to go. It's got the right mounting holes, everything. Yeah, I got these emergency brake parts that I saved in the bag. I just got to see if I can remember how they go together. I know that goes there. And these are the nuts that go on the torque converter and neutral safety switch. So this is how the e-brake goes together. The reason I show all this is that when I built that Trans Am, there was hundreds of pieces missing and I had to figure all this out. So if you're at a Galaxie and emergency brake is missing the parts. This is how it goes. So I forgot where I was in this video, but anyway, the cable coming down for emergency. Goes into that slot there. It has a little clip I think I showed earlier. And there's a cap. You put that on, and you put the spring on, and you put this piece through here. Make sure that notches like that. And then this piece, and this has got a swivel nut, or like a round nut. So you got two adjustments. You got this one, and you got this one. And this piece just hooks in like this. Again, if you're doing your drive shaft and you just put your transmission in, you can just go like this into neutral so you can spin the drive shaft, because if it's in park, it won't spin. Park is all the way forward. So again, if you're missing parts, that's why I go over all this stuff. So this is the shift rod. I just got rid of all the slack by putting washers. And to make it even tighter, I put a little groove in the back of this washer so I could slip this cotter pin in. And this goes to here. And then that goes to that piece I was talking about earlier, which you get off by, on my car anyway, sliding that rubber piece forward, and you can slip the linkage that way. But what I do see, it's in park right now, this exhaust pipe. Looks like it needs to go over about so much. So I don't think I'll ever put headers in this car, because it just screws up with getting spark plugs in, starter. So now I'm gonna put this linkage on, if I can remember how. So there's the neutral safety switch. There's a bolt here. And this here is the linkage for the downshift rod, which is right here. Oh yeah, and by the way, when it goes up, I believe it goes that way. So that's going to be facing towards the passenger. Pretty sure, if not, I can take it off, but and then that hooks into the carburetor somewhere. I can't remember that, how, but I'll do it. Yeah, I don't know what I just said, but this clip holds that shifter rod on. There's the C clip. Here's the nut that holds on this neutral safety switch and the linkage. It wouldn't hurt to put Loctite on this. So that's how this should look. Linkage from this column, safety switch, rod going up. So I think I have everything hooked up down here before now. The only thing I got to do is I got to put these. I got to put the starter in, torque converter to flex plate, or whatever you want to call this, the starter wheel, whatever. I think that's it down here. I got the starter in, these two bolts, and the cable that runs up to the starter solenoid up on the fender well. And there's one more thing I just remembered I got to do. I have to put in the dipstick for the transmission. That goes right in. Let's see, where does it go? Right here. And then I hit it, so that bolted into the side of something. I can't remember right now. Okay, make sure you put a rubber O-ring on there, and I put grease on here to help it slide in and to help it seal. Do you need it? I don't know. I just did it. Okay, I got it in. We'll see if it leaks or not. When I pushed it in, it went in really easy, so I don't know. And then this cable, the neutral safety switch, is gonna go up here. Just not gonna do that yet. To hook up these torque converter bolts, I need to hook up the starter. So I can just click it in my previous videos and it'll turn it instead of having to crank it by the engine bolt. So I don't know how the dipstick went stock, but before in another video, I welded this piece on here. It's just going to bolt to the valve cover. Cable coming up from the starter, so it's really a positive. The linkage from the kick down is right here. The neutral safety switch is going to run up through here, and somewhere there's some wire it plugs into. Let's see, where are they? Oh, I got the starter pinching it. Those, right, I tied it up, so it's those right there. Oh, and this box, this box that I was showing earlier. I guess there was a gasket in there once upon a time. So I'm just going to get rid of this. This goes right here somewhere. Again, that's where all these wires are anyway. I would have had to make a splice until future when I rewire this car, which I think I'm going to do. Transmission's in, drive shaft's in, neutral safety switch is in, kick down's in, e-brake is in, everything I could think of. Oh, and then we still got the torque converter. Then I got the inspection cover. After I get these in, there's be a generator here. On the generator, I believe there was 3 wires running over to here. Here they are. So those are not needed anymore. And again, as I was saying about the junction box, those 3 wires are right here. Right here. So those can be, well, they can be eliminated and they can't be because they have to be spliced together and I have to figure it out. Let me see, that was the wrong 3 wires. It was the, yeah, so those 3 wires that were on the generator come over to here, and then they're these 3 wires. But then I think they tied into the regulator, and then they go up. So here's a black red right here. And a black red here. So this has got to be the power going to the fuse box. Anyway, that's a future video. Oh, the exhaust system. I'm just going to talk about this in case you're interested. Let me put this away. Harbor Freight. So the exhaust system, I think this is a stock muffler. I don't know. And here's looks like a stock mount. So I'm just going to buy a bunch of pipe and put it together somehow by myself. Maybe I'll make dual exhaust. This was single exhaust. This kind of helps me know how it went. Does it have to be bent like that? I don't know. Because I can't bend. Oh, and then I took some clamps off of here. I thought this was interesting. Made in USA. Everything didn't used to come from China, everybody. When I was a kid, nothing came from China. It came from Japan. They used to say made in Japan. And they made good stuff. Oh yeah, I gotta put the transmission lines in. It's a bitch getting it through there. I'm gonna do it different this time. I'm just gonna come out of the transmission and make a flare like this. Let's see, I cut a piece off. I think I kept it. A flare like that, and then just run. So I'm gonna get 2 pieces coming out of the transmission, 2 pieces coming out of the radiator, and I'm just gonna use rubber hose. It's just too much of a bitch to deal with it the other way. I don't want to do it. My car, transmission line's in. Wait, I left my tool up there. Okay, here's a handy tool, but to get the transmission line, to get up in there. So I'm just gonna run them down to here, shorties, and then I'm gonna run rubber hose. It's just too much of a pain in the ass trying to get it all the way through. 1/2 inch. Yeah, I don't think I showed all the brake cable, emergency brake cable. This is how it goes. You just loosen this. These pieces are going from the bottom up. Also a lock nut there. And they just run back to here. Look at this cable. I think it's fine. I'm just going to use this. I think I got it off Amazon to hold up the neutral safety switch wires. Okay, I got them up. Again, I don't know what the stock one was like because I just don't. But I do know it ties into these. And see right there, I had it jumped, that copper wire. Yeah, I got a radiator. I got 2 radiators. I think this one came out of the LTD. I think the guy gave it to me, but so I just noticed they look exactly the same until I go to put this on. The cap is in a different spot. I wasn't sure. I couldn't remember which radiator this was, and I think it was good, even though it looks green. So get the other radiator out of the engine stand. Yeah, I dropped the radiator when I was taking it out of the stand over there. And it bent these flanges. But I got a plumb bob from my old construction days. I just beat that down in there and I can tap around it perfectly. So I'll just show you that one when it's done. I already fixed this one. That's a bigger hole. I don't have this plumb bob. Well, maybe if I take this tip off. Maybe. Yeah. Anyway, I'm going to tap some of this. If not, the radiator hose won't fit quite right. So I also noticed this radiator. I don't even know if it's the right radiator. The only thing that holds it on is these 2 bolts. I mean, it's got flanges on the side, but they never would have lined up with any holes that are here. Well, I don't know what the story is on that, but it's in. Okay, so this is going to go into the radiator, but I want a flare on the end of this. Like this. Anyway, this is the Eastwood tool that I bought when I was doing my Trans Am. It does brake lines and so on, but I want like a flare for hoses. So here's the die. You would usually put it that way, but I'm just showing you that you can reverse these. So I'm gonna have the square end. So you just stick the tube in, a little long. This is supposed to be on OBO. Let me loosen this a hair. Yeah, I'm trying to do this with one hand. Keep this kind of loose. that sets it on where it wants to be to work correctly. Tighten this. Put this on, again, this is for this type of flare. Put on an OP1 5/16. See, it's got a square. See the difference? This has got a rounder edge. This has got a square edge. Just go all the way in. Loosen this. Pull that. Pull this. Lift that out. That's what I want. Make sure you have your fitting on before you make any flares. Okay, I got those 2 fittings in. Okay, I got the fan on, the pulley, upper radiator hose, lower radiator hose. Now I gotta do these heater hoses. So this one must go here. This one must go there. I'm just gonna fill it up, see if there's any leaks. I'm not gonna start it yet. I still got a ways to go. Okay, I got the heater hoses on. I got some old style clamps on here. I don't know if you can see it. I'll show you over here. You can't even get a socket. Only a screwdriver. I don't even know who made these, but these are old. But the heater hose made in USA. I bet these clamps are too. Okay, I filled it up with water. No leaks, except I had the petcock open. By the way, the water was coming out really slow, so I put WD-40 on the threads and I looked inside and there was like a fur ball in there. I cleaned it out, so now it drains real good. So now I'm gonna raise the car back up, hook up those transmission lines, let it percolate for a while. You know, as I was looking for a picture of that, I just realized I got to put my vacuum modulator hose on. I can't remember seeing it. These are all extra parts. Oh, you know what? I think I cut it. I cut up all the extra tubing. Shit, what an idiot. I think it was this. Should be another piece of rubber on the end. And that. But that tells me what size line to use. Yeah, for anybody interested, I'll show you how I did the transmission lines. First of all, that's the driver's side over there. So the furthest line goes to the furthest outlet on the transmission. So they both come out where I can grab the screws easy, the clamps. I tied it to the sway bar with plenty of slack. Got one of those ties that I used on the neutral safety switch into the rubber mount. Goes over the cross member, under the starter, ties into the first metal line right there, and then this one goes back to the last. The only thing I don't like maybe is this. This is the steering arm that's going to move. I think I'll put on the tie and tie that up to there. I'll show you the vacuum module, back of the transmission. It's got to run up through there, up to manifold vacuum. I could probably just make a piece of tubing right here. Let me do that with this tool right here. I'll show you what I'm doing. It's real tight right here, so this bend had to be back here. Twist this a little bit. There. And then when I get up there, and I tied it right here. I think that's it for down here for now. Okay, as you can see, I made it long, but I guess it just needs to tie into vacuum, so right there, I think I'll tie it in. There it is. I had to put a clamp on here because for some reason this vacuum hose was kind of slippery. In other words, it wasn't a tight fit. So I think that's all I'm going to do for today. Like, again, my foot is healing. I don't want to overdo it. It's still gurgling water, so I'll put some more water in, but no leaks. Yeah, just to end this. Again, I'm just doing this to help people because I know it's like, if you got a basket case car, it's a bitch. So here's that Eastwood tool. Okay, so here's the flare. I mean, they almost look the same. But, so you saw me make this kind of weird shape. And this is the flare for like brake lines. So the 45 end of this makes that. But if you turn it over, you can see it 45s. If you turn it over, it says DIN. That'll make these. So then you push your hose right over it, and it's a good seal. And again, I was showing you earlier, the factory one is like that, but I don't know how to do that. I don't have a tool for that. Yeah, again, I'm just going to add this in. You know, if you've been watching me, I'm just retired. I'm getting old. I can only spend so much time on my legs now. So anyway, but my goal is to get this car running and on the road, just so I can check out everything else. Paint is, I guess paint is not important. Upholstery is not important. I want to get it mechanical. So that's where I'm at, and I'm just going to continue where I was before. So I'm just going to kind of review where I'm at. I got a remanufactured engine, rebuilt transmission that I rebuilt, but then I had somebody else check it. But because it didn't seem to be shifting right, but now that I think about it, in retrospect, the engine I had in when I was doing the transmission was the old 289, and it was only running on 4 cylinders, I figured out. As I do this, I'm learning. So anyway, so what I got left is got to hook up the battery, which the cables are, I don't know, I got to work out the cables. These wires here are to the generator. I no longer need them. I got to put the power steering in. I'll put the one that was on the 289 because it's already here. And then I think I talked about earlier, it's a different size. The 289 in this 302, I don't know about all 302s, a different size bolt. So I might have to get a longer bolt. I think that length right there. I know that's the wrong thread. I got to put the carburetor, hook up the linkage. And fan belts, transmission fluid. I'm still got to put the torque converter bolts on. I'll do that next, I guess. An inspection cover. Oh, I ordered some gauges because I'm not going to use those electronic gauges anymore. They're junk. So I'm just going to mount some gauges right here, I think. I bought some off Amazon. These wires here, I don't know. So I'm going to delete these. Again, I'm working through this. I'm not an electrician. I'm not a mechanic. What is this? Oh yeah, look at this. So I bought this car like a year ago, or not even, I don't know. But it didn't go in reverse. The engine was shot. So I'm just working through these issues. It's got a single brake cylinder. Yeah, anyway, I think I'll put Now I'm gonna put fluid in the transmission. I'm gonna put as much fluid as I can in there right now, which I think is about 3 quarts. So I just want to say something. If you're putting a new transmission in, put 3 quarts in before you start it, and then like within a minute, or just keep checking it as it's running. So I'm just going to show you what 3 quarts did. So until the transmission starts pumping, you can't have more fluid. Anyway, I'm kind of guessing, but I think this cable must have. I was looking at this 289. It's got a pretty long cable. Yeah, just on a side note, I just noticed that this is bent. Have to get one of those, and the grill got a bend there, but it's all easily fixed. Slight bend here and here. So I got all the red paint off this cable. I kind of enjoy reusing parts. So I was working on the transmission lines yesterday. I just figured, here's the new cable. If I just hooked it, it kind of holds the lines up. Just one added protection. That's cool. As I was lowering the car, that brake needs to be adjusted. One more thing on my list. Yeah, the cable's a little long. I think I want it to run like that. Not like this, because the clamp holds it. So I'm going to cut that off. Yeah, I found some old cable. I think I'll make this. It's not. Yeah, I got this thing of paint thinner that I keep this brushing. It cleaned this grease off really easy. Yeah, one more thing. So I disconnected them, but I'm going to need power to run over to here. I'm going to put an end on here. I crimped the end on the end of this wire. Okay, I was trying to figure out how to run this wire over to here. Yeah, I got it hooked up, but I just want to show you something, maybe to help with electricity. So I got power to the battery, ground to the engine block, power to the solenoid, power to the alternator, and power to this. This is later going to go to the fuse box. And from the battery to the engine block. Yeah, I do. Now what's strange is when I touch the frame, that's grounded too. So the ground is going through from the battery, through the engine block, through the engine mounts, through the body. So I hope this makes sense. Maybe it won't, but so again, I'm on tone. I got on the positive side, that's a tone because it's touching, but there's nothing here. Nothing here, nothing here. To jump this car, well, we'll get into that in a second. So the point I'm making, I need to put these bolts on here on the torque converter, but the key's not hooked up. So I got my starter switch, or yeah, just think of this as a key switch. I got one end on a hot, which is running to here. Now I'm gonna put the other one on S, if you can see that, which would be the key. So now I have the key in my hand. So anyway, now I can drop this down into down here. That's my key switch. So I'll go under, I'll raise the car up, and when I push that, it'll turn the starter, which will turn the torque converter, or the flywheel, whatever you want to call that, the flex plate. Then I can put my nuts on. Okay, so under transmission, torque limits, torque converter to flywheel, FMX, MX, C4, 20 to 30 pounds. So I'm going to do 25 pounds. Yeah, there's always some problem. This torque converter bolt is kind of, the threads are messed up. So putting a die on there, clean them up. It's always something. Okay, inspection covers on. 2 bolts. So I put those 3 quarts of fluid in, so there's no leaks at the transmission pan. There is a leak right there. I'm not sure if it's leaking from this fitting or from here, but that's the only leak. I think I'm going to clean this with the brake cleaner. I tightened these 2 bolts. It was somewhat loose. The gasket must have shrunk, the one here and the one over there. I tightened that fitting there the other day. I just cleaned this. Yeah, I'm at the 289, the one, again, this is the original engine that came out of the Galaxie. Here's the ground strap that was on there. Okay, I got the ground wire on. Right here, there was a bolt here. So I must have took it off and then screwed it back in. So I cleaned it. I cleaned all the ends with a wire brush. I cleaned that. Okay, it's another day. I feel like getting rid of these generator wires. These are the 3 that went to the generator. So I'm going to cut it up here. Here's the generator. Here's the regulator. So I just cut all these 3 out. You can see one of them is a hot going to the battery. And then it shows 2 other circuits. That's to the fuse box. And that little canister is radio suppression. What I don't like about these older electrical drawings, they don't call it the wire size. And then the yellow black goes to the generator light, and then it comes out of the generator light, goes to the constant voltage, goes to the key switch, goes to the oil pressure, goes to the windshield wiper, and to the fuse box. Anyway, what I determined is that, yeah, there's 2 hots, and 1 is for the switch to the horn. These are the 2 hots that go to the fuse box. This is a horn relay. So these are all power. They all get tied together to the red over here. I was also wondering, how did they run these wires? And I've been looking, how did they connect them? And here's remnants of the, I guess they used to look like that. So I can see it now. There's one there, there's one there. One there. That's how it used to be run. There's one here. They're all falling apart. They're no good. There's one here. I had bought these connectors that you drill a hole into your frame or firewall or whatever. Okay, I got my hot wire in. And I'm going to put it in the old regulator box. So I'm going to fill this up with silicone, all these holes, and then I'm just going to come in, put a grommet. Okay, I put silicone on here to fill up all those holes. When I found the rest of the gasket, I glued that on there. I'm going to put a grommet in there. And when I put it on, so the wire will come up on this side. Kind of stock. And it's free. Everything, I'm trying to do everything cheap. Okay, I got the carburetor on. But there's just these little subtle differences. So I'm going to put the linkage on onto those 2 holes right there. it's hitting this. Yeah, I just had to turn that vacuum splitter, I guess you'd call it, and the bolts were too short. Painting new bolts, that's it, I'm done, tired. I got something done. I can't put the power steering pump on until I get the gauges, so I'm working my way through, I'm getting there.